My name is Emily Collins, a software engineer passionate about what I do. I work at a renowned technology company, a true dream for many, but my reality there is very different from what I imagined when I joined. From the beginning, I felt like my ideas and contributions were constantly ignored. No matter how hard I tried or how innovative my suggestions were, they always seemed to be attributed to my male colleagues. It was as if I were invisible. A clear example of this happened in an important meeting about a new software project. I had spent weeks working on a solution that could optimize our processes by 30%. I arrived early that morning, eager to present my idea. When I finally got the chance to speak, my boss, Robert Harrison, interrupted me several times. "Emily, I think we already understand what you're getting at. Let's let John finish what you started," he said, looking at me with that condescending expression that I already knew so well. John, a talented colleague who clearly didn't have the same depth of knowledge about the project, ended up receiving all the praise. He himself tried to give me credit, but Robert soon cut him off. "Good job, John. You really captured the spirit of it," Robert said, completely ignoring my existence. That was the routine. I felt frustrated and isolated, and this feeling only increased when I returned to my small apartment. It was a simple place, but it had become my sanctuary, my refuge. I turned one of the corners of the room into an improvised laboratory, full of computers, wires and notes scattered everywhere. There, I could be myself, without judgment or interruptions. On one of those lonely nights, after another exhausting and demotivating day at work, I decided that I needed to do something meaningful, something that would prove my worth. That's when I thought about Jake Thompson, an old friend from my college days. Jake was a brilliant hacker, although he had his own demons to face, such as his online gaming addiction. "Jake, it's Emily. We need to talk. I have an idea that could change everything," I said nervously when I called him that night. "Emily? Wow, how long? Of course, I'm in. What's this about?" he replied, his voice excited. Jake had always been a bit unpredictable, but I knew I could trust him. I explained my frustration, the injustices I faced, and the idea I had in mind. He listened intently and, by the end, was as excited as I was. "Let's do this, Emily. Show them who you really are," he said, determination in his voice. With Jake on board, we started working on our secret project. We spent sleepless nights, alternating between our skills and knowledge. I coded non-stop while he found innovative ways to overcome the technical challenges that arose. We created revolutionary artificial intelligence, capable of learning and adapting autonomously. During this process, I realized that I wasn't just creating innovative technology, I was also rediscovering my passion and confidence. Every small step forward on the project was a personal victory, a reminder that I was capable and valuable. "Jake, this is looking amazing. I can't wait to see their reaction when we present this," I said, with a smile that hadn't appeared on my face in a while. "That's it, Emily. Let's show the world what we're made of," Jake replied, with a twinkle in his eye. Despite all the difficulties and feeling constantly undervalued in the company, these moments in my small laboratory gave me the strength to continue. I was determined to prove myself, not just to myself, but to everyone who ignored and underestimated me. This journey was just beginning, and I knew the real battle was yet to come. Determined to prove myself and tired of living in the shadow of my peers, I decided it was time to take action. The sleepless nights, which were previously filled with thoughts of frustration and discouragement, became the ideal time to start my secret project. I knew I couldn't do it alone, so I decided to contact Jake Thompson, a longtime friend and an extremely talented hacker. "Jake, I need your help," I said, on the phone, one particularly lonely night. "Emily? How long ago? What do you have in mind?" he replied, his voice full of curiosity. "I want to create something revolutionary, an artificial intelligence that can learn and adapt autonomously. Something that can really make a difference," I explained, feeling a wave of determination wash over me. "That sounds amazing. But, why do you want to do this? And why now?" Jake asked, trying to understand the urgency in my voice. I'm tired of being ignored, Jake. I have brilliant ideas, but no one listens to me. I need to prove to myself and everyone that I can do it, I confessed, letting all my frustration show. Jake was silent for a moment, pondering what I had said. I'm in. But you know I have my own problems, right? Online gaming addiction is consuming me. I know, Jake. We can get through this together. And who knows, this project might be just what you need to focus on something positive, I suggested, trying to bring a little hope to the conversation. With that, we began an intense and challenging journey. Every night after work, I returned to my small apartment, which I had turned into a makeshift laboratory. I would connect with Jake online and we would spend hours brainstorming, planning, and coding. Jake, were you able to fix that bug in the learning subroutine? I asked, as I typed furiously on my laptop. Yes, but we still have a problem with the integration of natural language modules. It seems that the AI is having difficulty understanding more complex contexts, he replied, clearly frustrated. Let's try a different approach. Maybe if we use a deeper neural network, we can improve contextual understanding, I suggested, trying to remain optimistic. Over the months, our artificial intelligence began to take shape. It was fascinating to see how she evolved and learned with each new interaction. However, it was not an easy path. We faced countless technical challenges, in addition to the personal difficulties that each of us had. Emily, I don't know if I can continue like this. The debts are piling up and my family doesn't understand why I'm investing so much time in this, said Jake, on a particularly difficult night. I understand, Jake. I'm in the same situation. My family wants me to pursue a more traditional career. But I know we're on the right path. We need to believe in ourselves, I replied, trying to encourage him. With each obstacle overcome, our determination only increased. We knew we were creating something truly special, something that could change the industry forever. And that gave us the strength to continue, even when everything seemed to fall apart. Emily, have you ever thought about what will happen when we finally reveal our AI to the world? Jake asked, his voice thick with expectation. Yes, and honestly, I can't wait for that day. I want everyone to see what we can do. I want them to know that it was us, Emily Collins and Jake Thompson, who created this, I replied, with a smile of determination on my face. And so, night after night, we continued working on our secret project, fueled by the hope of a future where our abilities would finally be recognized. Our artificial intelligence was about to change everything, and we were ready to show the world what we were capable of. Throughout the development of our secret project, personal challenges began to accumulate in ways I had never imagined. My family has always had a very traditional view of careers and, although I had already earned a place at a renowned technology company, they insisted that I should pursue something more safe and conventional. Emily, why don't you consider a government job? It's stable and has good benefits, my mother would say on the phone, day after day. It was difficult for her to understand my passion for innovation and technology. Furthermore, the tension at work only increased. Robert Harrison, my boss, seemed to take sadistic pleasure in devaluing my contributions. In one meeting, I clearly remember him saying, "Oh, that's an interesting idea, but let's see if anyone can improve it." It was frustrating to see my suggestions ignored and then presented as if they were other colleagues' ideas. Jake, my hacker friend, was facing his own demons. He had an unparalleled talent for programming, but his addiction to online games often hindered our progress. Jake, we need to focus, I said, trying not to sound desperate. I know, Emily. But it's hard. I'm trying, he replied, with a tired look. There were days when he would disappear for hours, and I knew he was deep into some game, trying to escape reality. It was not easy to reconcile all these pressures. The sleepless nights started piling up, and I felt like I was on the verge of exhaustion. However, the idea of creating something revolutionary kept me motivated. Our project was progressing, albeit slowly, and every small advance was a victory. financial difficulties also began to take their toll. The equipment needed to develop our artificial intelligence was not cheap, and I had to balance my budget to ensure we could continue. "Emily, we're going to need a new server," Jake told me one night. "We can't continue with this old equipment." It was another expense that I didn't know how I was going to cover, but I knew that giving up was not an option. One night, after a particularly difficult day at work, I sat with Jake in my apartment. "Jake, how are we going to keep going? I'm exhausted and it feels like we're swimming against the tide," I confessed, feeling the tears start to form. "Emily, I know it's hard. But look at what we've accomplished. We're close, I can feel it. We just need a little more time and effort," he replied, with a determination that gave me the strength to continue. The pressure also came from the emotional side. It was difficult not to feel a pang of envy when I saw my colleagues being recognized for ideas that I knew were mine. But Jake was always there to remind me of our greater goal. "Emily, we're doing this for something bigger than immediate recognition. We're creating something that will change everything," he said. Despite all these challenges, something inside me knew we were on the right path. Each obstacle overcome, each small victory in the development of our artificial intelligence, was another step towards our goal. And most of all, Jake's support, even through his own struggles, gave me the strength I needed to keep going. The journey was far from easy, but I knew it would be worth it. We were on the verge of creating something truly revolutionary, and that vision kept us focused, even in the most difficult times. I knew that in the end, all the sacrifice and effort would pay off, and that I would finally prove myself to everyone, including myself. In the middle of developing our revolutionary AI, something unexpected happened. It was a Tuesday night, and Jake and I were deep into code. The clock said 2 in the morning, and the caffeine had already been flowing through our veins for hours. We were testing a new self-learning function when suddenly my laptop screen displayed an error message. I frowned and looked at Jake. "This shouldn't happen," I said, trying to keep the worry out of my voice. Jake smiled slightly, but his eyes were fixed on the screen. "Let's see what went wrong," he replied, as he began typing frantically. After an hour of investigation, we discovered that the error was related to a critical vulnerability in a system widely used in the company. My heart raced. This vulnerability, if exploited, could cause immense damage, potentially exposing the sensitive data of millions of users. "Jake, this is serious," I said, trying to stay calm. "We need to resolve this before anyone else finds out." He nodded. "Let's proceed with caution. It could be dangerous if this falls into the wrong hands." We spent the night awake, discussing how to approach the situation. We decided that the best strategy would be to develop a secure, enhanced version of the technology, something that would not only fix the vulnerability but also offer an innovative solution for the industry. This could be the key to introducing our AI in a safe and revolutionary way. "Emily, do you realize what we're about to do?" Jake asked, with a twinkle in his eye. "This could change everything." I smiled despite my tiredness. "Yes, I know. And that's exactly why we need to be careful." Over the next few days, our routines became a frantic mix of working at the company during the day and developing the secret project at night. The pressure was immense, but the possibility of creating something truly innovative motivated us. One night while we were working, Jake said something that made me think. "Emily, have you ever thought about what will happen if we manage to launch this? I mean, actually launch it." I sighed, looking at him. "To be honest, Jake, I'm more worried about what will happen if we don't succeed. That vulnerability could be exploited at any time. But, yes, I think about it. I think about how maybe, just maybe, I will finally be recognized for what I can do it." Jake nodded, understanding. "You deserve this. More than anyone." Over time, we improved our AI and the secure version of the system. Each line of code represented not only a technical solution, but also a small personal victory for me. It was as if, at every step, I was proving my worth not only to the company, but to myself. Finally, after weeks of hard work, we had a working version. Jake and I were exhausted, but the feeling of accomplishment was indescribable. We decided it was time to test our creation in a real environment. "Jake, we're about to enter uncharted territory," I said nervously as we prepared the system for its final test. He smiled. "Emily, we've come this far. Let's do this." The test was a success. Our AI not only fixed the vulnerability, but also showed an impressive ability to adapt and learn. I couldn't believe what we were seeing. "We did it," I said, almost in a whisper, as I looked at the screen. Jake put his hand on my shoulder. "Yes, we did it. Now the real battle begins." Although we were elated with our success, we knew that discovering the vulnerability and creating the solution was just the beginning. We needed to think carefully about our next steps and how to present this to the world without taking unnecessary risks. "Let's do this the right way," I told Jake. "But first, we need to make sure we are protected." He agreed, and we began planning the next phase of our journey, aware that we were about to face even greater challenges. I remember well the day I met Clara Mendez. She was an investigative technology journalist known for her in-depth and revealing reporting. I knew I needed someone like her by my side to expose the injustices I was facing at the company. For a long time, I had kept everything a secret: my frustration, my anger, and, of course, the revolutionary project Jake and I were developing. But at that moment, I felt it was time to seek outside help. This is how our alliance began. One rainy afternoon, I walked into a discreet cafe in the city center. There was Clara, sitting at a table in the corner, facing the window. She had a serious but welcoming expression. Upon seeing me, she stood up and extended her hand with a confident smile. "Emily Collins, right? Nice to meet you," Clara said. "Yes, it's me." "It's my pleasure, Clara. I've been following your work and I know you're the right person to help me," I replied, shaking her hand firmly. We sat down and started talking. I told her about my situation at the company, how my ideas were often stolen and attributed to my male colleagues, and how my boss, Robert Harrison, devalued my contributions. Clara listened attentively, making quick notes in her notebook. "This is unacceptable, Emily. But tell me, how do you plan to expose these injustices? What about the project you mentioned in our email exchange?" Clara asked, leaning forward, interested. I took a deep breath and began to explain. "Jake Thompson, a longtime friend, and I are developing a revolutionary artificial intelligence. In the process, we discovered a critical vulnerability in a system widely used in the company. We decided to create a secure, improved version of this technology. If we can release it, it will be a revolution in the industry, and people will see my true value." Clara smiled. "You have a powerful story here, Emily. And I want to help tell that story. But we need to be careful. Your identity must be kept secret until the right time, so that Robert and the others cannot harm you." I nodded. "That's exactly what I needed, Clara. Someone who can expose the truth without compromising my safety." From that day on, Clara and I began to meet regularly. She guided me on how to gather evidence and document my findings. In return, I provided her with detailed information about the company's unethical practices, always being careful not to arouse suspicion. In one of these meetings, Clara asked me about Jake. "How is he dealing with all of this? Working on such a big project must be challenging, especially with the personal issues he faces." I sighed. "Jake is trying really hard, Clara. He struggles with online gaming addiction, but he's been an incredible partner on this project. We're trying to support each other as best we can." Clara nodded, understanding. "I'm glad to hear that. It's important to have someone you trust by your side. And I'll be here to help you both too." Our alliance has strengthened over time. Clara began to deeply investigate the company, uncovering other unethical practices and building a robust dossier. At the same time, Jake and I advanced the development of AI, which became increasingly promising. One night, after a long work session, I called Clara. "Clara, I think we're ready to take the next step. The AI is almost finished, and we have enough evidence to expose Robert and the others. I'm ready when you are, Emily, Clara replied with determination. Let's do this together. With Clara's help, I finally felt like I had a real chance to change things. Not just for me, but for all the women in the tech industry who, like me, have been ignored and undervalued. Our alliance was the key to the justice and change we so sought. Finally, the day of the tech conference arrived, and I couldn't be more nervous. I spent the night before reviewing the presentation countless times, checking every line of code and making sure everything was perfect. Jake, ever the optimist, tried to reassure me. Emily, you need to relax a little, he said as we drank coffee in the kitchen of my apartment. The AI is impeccable. You did an incredible job. I know, Jake, but it's hard to relax, I replied, trying to hide the tremor in my hands. This is my chance to prove myself to all those who ignored me. We arrived at the conference venue, an imposing auditorium in the heart of Silicon Valley. The walls were lined with banners from the biggest technology companies in the world, and the atmosphere was electric. The audience was made up of the biggest names in the industry, including CEOs, investors, and renowned engineers. Just imagining all those eyes on me sent a chill down my spine. As we walked through the halls, I met Clara Mendez, the journalist who had become an invaluable ally. Emily, you're going to rock it, Clara said, with an encouraging smile. Remember why you are here. This is your story, and no one can take it away from you. I just nodded, taking his words like a mantra. The moment had arrived. I went up to the stage, and the lights in the auditorium went out, leaving only a spotlight on me. I took a deep breath and started the presentation. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Emily Collins, and I'm here to introduce an innovation that promises to revolutionize the technology industry. With each slide, each demonstration, confidence grew within me. The artificial intelligence that Jake and I developed was impressive, capable of learning and adapting in ways I had never seen before. I showed how our AI could solve complex problems in fractions of a second, optimize industrial processes, and even improve cybersecurity. The audience was rapt, with wide eyes and mouths open in awe. During the live demo, the AI not only worked flawlessly but also surprised everyone with its ability to predict and correct errors in real time. At this point, I could feel the energy in the auditorium change. There were murmurs of admiration and whispers of approval. After finishing the performance, the room erupted in applause. It was a deafening sound, but at the same time, the most beautiful music I had ever heard. I walked to the edge of the stage and bowed, with tears of joy in my eyes. As I walked off the stage, I was surrounded by a flood of people who wanted to greet me, ask me questions and, of course, offer me opportunities. Among the familiar faces, I saw Robert Harrison, my boss, with an expression that mixed surprise and maybe even a little regret. He approached me. Emily, he began, but I interrupted him. You don't need to say anything, Robert. Today, I made it clear who I am and what I am capable of. He just nodded, seeming to understand the depth of my words. I walked away and went back to where Jake and Clara were waiting for me, both with proud smiles. You were amazing, Emily. Jake exclaimed, hugging me. I knew you could do it, Clara added, her eyes shining with emotion. The technology conference not only marked the recognition of my artificial intelligence, but it was also a turning point in my life. Finally, I had shown the world my ability, and no one could ignore it. I was the new sensation of Silicon Valley, and this was just the beginning of my journey. With the media attention focused on me after the tech conference, I felt it was the right time to expose all the injustices I faced at the company. Clara Mendez, the investigative journalist with whom I had formed an alliance, was ready to publish the explosive article that detailed Robert Harrison's unethical practices and how he often gave credit for my ideas to other colleagues. The morning the article was published, I woke up with a mixture of nervousness and excitement. I knew this was a decisive step, but I also knew I was putting my career and reputation at risk. Clara called me early, her calm and confident voice always gave me strength. Emily, are you ready? she asked. Ready as I've never been, Clara. Let's do this, I replied, trying to hide the anxiety in my voice. 2 hours later, the article went live. The title was blunt, The Invisible Engineer, How Emily Collins Was Silenced by Robert Harrison. The reporting was detailed and well documented, with interviews from former colleagues that confirmed my claims and an in-depth analysis of unethical practices within the company. Shortly after publishing, my phone started ringing incessantly. Messages of support from coworkers, longtime friends, and even strangers flooded my social media. The hashtag Justice for Emily quickly became a trending topic on Twitter. However, the most anticipated reaction was that of the company itself. It didn't take long for them to receive pressure from the technology community and the media. An emergency meeting was called, and I was called into the office of the CEO, James Carter. Emily, you can come in, he said, seeing me coming. I entered the room with my heart racing. Robert Harrison was there, with an expression of fury and nervousness. James, on the other hand, looked serious but fair. Emily, I read Clara Mendez's article. We have a lot to discuss, James began, looking into my eyes. Robert, do you have anything to say about these allegations? Robert tried to defend himself, claiming that it was all a misunderstanding, but the evidence was irrefutable. James had no choice but to relieve him of his duties immediately. Emily, I'm deeply sorry you had to go through this. We will launch an internal investigation and take all necessary measures to ensure this never happens here again, promised James. I left the room with a mixture of relief and satisfaction. I knew there was still a long way to go, but this was a big step in the right direction. That night, Clara called me again. Emily, you were amazing today. The courage she had to face all of this is inspiring, she said. I couldn't have done this without you, Clara. Thank you for believing in me and giving voice to my story, I replied, moved. In the following days, the repercussion of the article continued to grow. I received invitations for interviews with major media outlets and was invited to speak at technology events about the importance of equality and recognition in the workplace. The company, in turn, announced a series of changes. A new recognition and inclusion policy was implemented, and mentoring programs for women and minorities were created. James Carter kept his promise, and at the end of the internal investigation, Robert Harrison was fired. Finally, after years of struggle and frustration, I was getting the recognition I deserved. The feeling of revenge was replaced by a feeling of accomplishment and overcoming. My story not only brought justice for me, but also inspired other women in the tech industry to fight for their rights and recognition. Clara and I continue our partnership, working together to expose injustices and promote equality in the world of technology. Jake also grew stronger on this journey, overcoming his personal challenges and becoming a key player in our future projects. At that moment, I realized that true victory was not just in exposing injustices, but in building an environment where everyone could grow and be recognized for their talents and contributions. And that was a fight I was more than willing to continue. The day everything changed started like any other. I woke up, had my coffee and went to the office. However, there was a different mood in the air. Ever since Clara Mendez published the article exposing the injustices I suffered, I felt like something was about to happen. And I was right. I arrived at the company and, to my surprise, I was immediately called to a meeting with the board of directors. As I entered the room, I saw faces that were not normally present at our daily meetings. Among them was the company's CEO, Jonathan Blake, who rarely appeared in day-to-day operations. Emily, please sit down, Jonathan said, with a tone of voice that mixed seriousness and respect. I took a deep breath and sat down. Beside me, I saw Robert Harrison, with an expression I couldn't decipher. He looked nervous, but still maintained that characteristic arrogance. Emily, Jonathan began, we have read Clara Mendez's article and reviewed the evidence you and she provided us. We are deeply embarrassed by what happened and thank you for bringing this to our attention. Robert tried to defend himself. This is nonsense. Emily is exaggerating. This is all one big conspiracy against me. Jonathan raised his hand, asking for silence. Robert, we have had an internal investigation and the evidence is clear. Your actions are unacceptable. You are relieved of your duties as of this moment. The shock was visible on Robert's face. He tried to argue, but was quickly escorted out of the room by security guards. Jonathan turned to me with a look of sincerity. Emily, on behalf of the company, I apologize for everything you've been through. We are implementing a new recognition and inclusion policy at the company. And, starting today, you are promoted to head of technology innovation. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. Thank you, Jonathan, I replied, trying to contain my emotion. I just want to make sure no one else goes through what I went through. And that's exactly what we're going to do, he said, smiling. You are an inspiration to us all. I left the meeting feeling a mixture of relief and excitement. For the first time, I felt that my work and ideas would be valued. I went back to my office and picked up my phone. I needed to share the news with Jake. Jake, you won't believe what happened, I exclaimed when he answered. Tell me, Em. I'm dying of curiosity, replied Jake, with that contagious excitement. Robert was removed. They implemented new inclusion policies and, guess what? I was promoted to head of technological innovation. That's amazing, Emily. You deserve this so much. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you, Jake. Your support was instrumental. We're in this together, always, he said, and I could feel the smile in his voice. In the following days, the company underwent a transformation. New policies were implemented, and an atmosphere of inclusion and recognition began to take shape. I felt more motivated than ever to continue my work and make a difference. Clara Mendez was also fundamental in this process. Her reporting not only brought to light the injustices I suffered, but also inspired other women to share their stories. The friendship we developed grew stronger, and we continued to fight for justice and equality in the tech industry. The journey was long and full of challenges, but I was finally where I always dreamed of being. And, with the support of amazing people like Jake and Clara, I knew the future was bright. Together, we were changing the industry, one innovation and story of courage at a time. If I could go back in time and talk to Emily who started this journey, I would tell her not to give up, to keep believing in herself, even when everything seemed to be against her. Today, looking back, I see how much I have grown and overcome. After all the turmoil, recognition finally came. My artificial intelligence was not only adopted by the company, but became an industry standard. It has revolutionized the way we deal with large volumes of data and machine learning. I received invitations to speak, participated in international conferences, and my name began to be associated with significant technological innovations. Jake also went through an impressive journey of overcoming. Inspired by our joint success, he decided to tackle his online gaming addiction. I remember a crucial conversation we had. Emily, I need to tell you something, Jake said, with a serious expression I rarely saw. Of course, Jake. What there was? I asked, worried. I decided to seek help for my addiction. I can't go on like this, I'm wasting my potential and, well, I want to be someone you're proud of. Jake, I'm already proud of you. But I'm very happy to hear that. I know you have enormous talent, and the world needs to see that. And he succeeded. Jake began working on his own projects, many of which also gained attention. He became an example of perseverance and resilience, someone who not only faced his personal demons but also emerged victorious. My friendship with Clara Mendez also grew stronger. She had become much more than an ally, she was a true friend and confidant. Together, we continue to fight for justice and equality in the world of technology. In one of our most memorable conversations, Clara spoke about the importance of our mission. Emily, you know there's still a lot of work to be done, right? Said Clara, while we were having coffee at one of our usual meetings. Yes, Clara, I know. But we are making a difference, little by little. And that gives me hope. And not just hope. you are an inspiration to so many women who, like you, have been ignored and undervalued. We need to keep fighting for them. The company, in turn, underwent a significant transformation. With the departure of Robert Harrison, new recognition and inclusion policies were implemented. I was promoted and finally received the recognition I always deserved. I became a reference within the company, living proof that talent and determination should be valued, regardless of gender. Once, at a meeting with the new board, I was invited to share my vision for the company's future. Emily, we want to hear your ideas for the new innovation division. What do you think we should focus on? Asked the new CEO, visibly interested. I believe we should focus on technologies that promote inclusion and accessibility. We need to ensure that our innovations are beneficial to everyone, not just the tech elite. And we must also invest in mentoring programs for young talent, especially women and minorities, so that they can have the same opportunities that I worked so hard to achieve. I completely agree, Emily. Your vision will be critical to our future success. It was a moment of achievement and pride, but also of responsibility. I knew that my position now meant more than just personal success. It was an opportunity to open doors for others, to make sure no one else went through what I went through. Today, I continue working on my artificial intelligence, improving it and exploring new possibilities. But most of all, I'm committed to creating a more fair and inclusive environment in technology. I know that my journey of overcoming and recognition is just the beginning, and I am determined to use my voice and skills to make a difference. This is my story, and it is far from over. Each challenge overcome, each recognition achieved, is a step towards a better future for all of us. And that, to me, is the true measure of success. I was finally enjoying the success I always dreamed of, but there was still something that bothered me deeply. I couldn't ignore the fact that Robert Harrison, my old boss, was involved in something much more sinister than just devaluing my contributions. The idea that he might be selling company secrets to competitors began to solidify in my mind, and I knew I needed to do something about it. One night while I was at my apartment, I decided to call Jake. He answered on the third ring, his voice hoarse with sleep. "Jake, I need your help," I said bluntly. "Emily?" "What there was?" he asked, still trying to wake up completely. "I think Robert is involved in corporate espionage. I need proof, and you're the only person I trust to help me find it." Jake was silent for a few seconds, and I could almost hear the gears turning in his head. "Okay, I'll help you. But we need to be extremely careful. If he finds out, it could be dangerous for both of us." Over the next few days, Jake and I worked tirelessly. He hacked into systems, analyzed emails, and rummaged through old records. Each time we found a clue, the feeling that we were on the right path increased. "I found something," Jake said one night while we were gathered in my apartment. "There are a series of encrypted emails between Robert and a competing company. I think this is the proof we need." "Great work, Jake." "Now we need Clara," I replied, taking out my phone to call her. Clara answered quickly, and I explained the situation. "Clara, we have proof that Robert is selling company secrets. We need your help to ensure this reaches authorities and the media." "Emily, this is huge. I will help you for sure. Let's meet tomorrow to discuss the details and see how we can proceed," said Clara, her voice full of determination. The next day we met at a discreet cafe. Clara analyzed the evidence Jake had found and was shocked. "That's more than enough to incriminate him. I will prepare a full dossier and contact my police and media contacts." "Emily, you are a true hero for figuring this out." With Clara's help, we gathered all the necessary evidence and handed it over to the competent authorities. The news soon spread, and Robert Harrison was arrested, accused of corporate espionage and betrayal of the company. The repercussion was enormous. The company, under the temporary leadership of a board of directors, began a complete restructuring process. It was then that I received an unexpected call from one of the directors. "Emily, we would like to invite you to lead a new innovation division. Your courage and determination are exactly what we need to rebuild the company in a more fair and inclusive way." I accepted the offer, feeling a mixture of relief and accomplishment. My journey had been arduous, but I was finally reaping the fruits of my labor and persistence. Upon assuming my new position, I made a point of implementing policies that ensure recognition and equality for all employees. Jake, in turn, was hired as a cybersecurity consultant, and Clara continued to use her platform to fight for fairness and transparency in the tech industry. The final twist not only brought justice to me, but also ensured that the company and the industry as a whole became more fair and inclusive. I felt rewarded for my courage and determination, and I knew I was on the right path to leaving a lasting legacy.